Stop at nothing.
Gordon's alive.
Coming to you from a basement studio somewhere down under, it's the 80s Show with Australia's Retro Man. On tonight's show, Retro Man puts the spotlight on Flash Gordon 1980 and reveals who did the voice of Flash. Well, what are we waiting for? Lights, camera, Retro Man!
G'day viewers, Retro Man here, and welcome to the 80s Show. Now, Flash Gordon is a lavish comic book spectacle from producer Dino De Laurentiis. I'm sure you've heard of that name before. It is so big it can barely fit on the screen. The film comes with a thunderous music score by Queen. I can actually hear it now. The sets are amazing, the costumes are colourful, and the whole style of the production has an air of campiness to it, similar to the 1960s Batman series. Now, the film stars Sam J. Jones as Flash Gordon, a quarterback from the New York Jets who suddenly ends up on the planet Mongo, where he's battling Ming the Merciless, a villainous emperor. And the movie moves from one rollicking action piece to the next. And joining Flash on the adventure is Dale Arden, played by Melody Anderson, and she serves as Flash's love interest throughout the proceedings. And we also have Max von Sydow as Ming the Merciless. He does a tremendous job. In fact, I'm sure he scared a lot of the children at the time. He was quite an imposing presence, and with that voice and costuming, wow. And of course, we've got Topol as Dr. Hans Zarkov. And he was a bit of a loony bin scientist. Now, if you don't know who Topol is, let me put him into perspective. Have you seen the James Bond film For Your Eyes Only, starring Roger Moore? Well, Topol was in that film. I'm sure you'll remember him. There's a sequence on a boat where he bursts into action with Bond. Now, there's a couple of other very famous actors in this film. And it's actually another Bond that stars in this film. It's Timothy Dalton as Prince Baron. Timothy Dalton in this film makes a very dashing Errol Flynn type character as Prince Baron. He's nicely suited in that green outfit. And yes, he was the Bond that took over from Roger Moore. And to suit the Errol Flynn type dashing vibe, he even has a moustache, which makes him look totally different from when he played Bond. And we also have Brian Blessed as Prince Voltan. I don't think anybody can forget Brian Blessed with his imposing voice and that big beefy stature that he brings to the film. He was the wingman, and Brian just steals scene after scene with those quips, those one-liners, and that booming voice of his. It's just something else. I always remember that classic moment when the two princes came together, Prince Baron and Prince Voltan, and Prince Baron is fighting Flash Gordon on that revolving turntable, which is just a spectacular action sequence. And Brian is just sitting there as the wingman, and he goes, "Hand me the remote control." And it's just a great on-screen moment for Brian.
Give me the remote control!
And of course, let's not forget Ornella Muti, the Italian actress who plays the seductive Princess Aura. Now, Muti after this moved on to a film with a very famous American actor, Sylvester Stallone. That's right, about 10 years later, she appeared in Oscar with Sly, that comedy caper film. And you know what Sly had to say about Ornella Muti? She is the most beautiful woman that I have ever laid eyes on. Now, that's quite a compliment, and I'm sure anybody that's seen Flash Gordon will definitely remember Ornella Muti in that film. She has such a striking presence with those captivating eyes, and she's simply unforgettable. Now, I think Sam J. Jones made the perfect Flash Gordon, the full embodiment of the character. He looks great. He's just got that perfect build. He can handle action sequences. Now, Sam J. Jones was an inexperienced actor at the time when he took on the role of Flash Gordon, and the producers got a little bit worried about what was cutting through the screen, how his voice was going, and they decided last minute to loop some of his lines with a British voice actor called Peter Marinka.
Now, many of you may not know the name Peter Marinka, but you've probably heard his voice. Peter is well known for his work on BBC Radio, along with his many audiobook recordings. As I understand it, Marinka didn't sign a disclosure agreement for Flash Gordon, but he knew after redubbing Sam's voice that he shouldn't talk about it publicly, so Marinka remained tight-lipped for many years. I suppose you could say that this Marinka tidbit is just another one of those fascinating behind-the-scenes stories that inevitably was going to leak one way or another. Aside from his uncredited work on Flash Gordon, Marinka has also added his versatile voice stylings to other 80s productions, such as the popular TV series Monkey and the cult Jim Henson fantasy Labyrinth, where he did the voice of Goblin.
Now, Sam himself didn't even know until he saw the finished product that there was going to be another voice appearing in the film. That took him by surprise. It reminds me a little bit about what happened to Clinton Spilsbury, that Lone Ranger actor from 1981, when his voice was dubbed over by James Keach. And the same thing happened to old Sammy here. But regardless, Sam looks the part. He's physically great in this. He's got that Flash Gordon t-shirt with a flash across the centre. And I think Sam really fits the bill. And at one stage, this is the amazing thing, Arnold Schwarzenegger came into Dino De Laurentiis' office trying to win over the part. And Dino looked at him and he said, And Arnold said, such a big desk for such a little man. And that was a game breaker. That little insult there caught Dino, who is this big movie producer, caught him by surprise. And he thought, no, I'm not going to cast the Austrian oak in this. I'm going to cast an unknown. So we wound up with Sam J. Jones, who I just love saying that name, Sam J. Jones. And that must have been a thing in the 80s. You got Michael J. Fox, but Sam J. Jones, was first in 1980. I tell you what, guys, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. This is Retro Man, living the dream. Stay gold. Watch out, Ming.
Thanks for watching. Retro Man will return faster than a boomerang and tougher than Flash Gordon getting whipped by a baron. Thanks for watching. Good night.